wants to start. There we go. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jesse Hildebrand, and welcome to Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those who don't know, we're all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. So today I'm really excited. We've got a great hangout plan. Right now we've got 5 classes from across North America taking part. So I'll give them a chance to do a bit of a shout out. We've got Mrs. Editor's grade 4 class from Hutchinson, Kansas. Hi, guys. We've got Mr. Bernie's grade 6s from Orillia, Ontario. They're so loud they like broke the mic. That's awesome. Okay, we've got Mr. Bushnell's grade 3s from Gap, Pennsylvania. We've got Mrs. Guido and Eggert's grade 5s from Bloomingdale, Illinois. So much enthusiasm, so little time. And then we have the class from Anaheim, California, grade 4s. I can't demute your mic. You'll have to demute your own, but we love your enthusiasm ahead of time no matter what. So we'll get there. Of course, the reason you guys are all here today is for our speaker.
I know.
All right. Of course, the reason you guys are all here today is for our speaker. We're joined by Scott Sears, who is going to try and become the youngest person to cross Antarctica to get to the South Pole completely unassisted, because that's something that people do. Scott, I can't possibly introduce you better than you can showcase your own adventure. So I'll turn it over to you, and thank you so much for joining us here today.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. Just so I make sure, can everyone hear me? Can you all give me a wave? Because I can see you.
Yes.
Perfect. Nice. I can see you all. Great. Now, you might be able to tell I talk a bit funny because I'm not actually from America or Canada. I'm all the way in London right now. It's about 7 o'clock at night, so it's all dark outside. So I hope you can understand my rather funny accent for the next 20 minutes or so. I'm going to be talking to you guys about my trip to Antarctica, where I'm heading in just 2 weeks now. Down to Antarctica. I'll share my screen with you here so you can see what I'm going to show you here. Okay. So, in a couple of weeks, I'm heading down to Antarctica to try and break the world record for the youngest person ever to reach the South Pole completely alone, unsupported and unassisted. So what that means is I'll be walking completely by myself, carrying everything I need from start to finish, any support along the way. So I can't use any vehicles or dogs or planes or anything like that. I have to walk the entire way myself. First, I'll show you this quick video here to get you excited about the trip. Perfect. Okay. As you saw there, the journey itself is in Antarctica, and this, as you can see, is a map with America over the top, so you can see how big Antarctica is, even compared to such a big country like America. So my journey itself is actually 1,100 kilometers, so 1,100 kilometers that I've got to walk all by myself. And in miles, that's about almost 800 miles. It actually starts just off the coast of Antarctica. So I have to fly all the way here from London down to the lowest point in Chile in South America. And from there, I get on this big Russian cargo jet that will then fly me out and drop me off in Antarctica. And from there, I then have to get a tiny little propeller plane that will fly me out to the sea ice, because it's so cold down there. All the sea around Antarctica is frozen. down there, and it'll chuck me out the side, 2 skis on my feet, and that sled that you can see behind me in the background there, which has everything I need to keep me alive for 2 months completely alone in Antarctica. And that sled weighs about 100 kilograms, which in American terms is over 200 pounds. So bigger than the biggest American football player you can think of, or LeBron James is about the same weight as that. So it's like dragging LeBron James 800 miles behind you. Is the highest, driest, coldest, and windiest continent on Earth. The coldest temperatures ever recorded on Earth were in Antarctica at -89 degrees Celsius. And the highest wind speeds on Earth were in Antarctica, over 200 miles per hour. And when I'm down there, I'm going in the middle of the Antarctic summer. Temperatures will be a little bit warmer at about -50 degrees Celsius, and the winds will probably be about 150 miles an hour at their very fastest. So with weather like that and little old me there by myself, possibly go wrong down there. Now, the first thing I've got to worry about is things called crevasses. Now, these are crevasses, and Antarctica continent. So under all of that snow and all of that ice, a big land continent, just like America. But because it's so cold down there, it's covered by ice that can be 2 kilometers in places, almost up to 3 kilometers, so thousands of meters deep. And this ice has cracks all the way along it. But because of the wind, it blows the snow back across the cracks, and so they're completely invisible. See, this man on the left-hand side has no idea what he's standing above their very deep drop that can be thousands of meters deep. And so when I'm walking along, I'll be walking and it'll look completely white and fine in front of me, but I won't know that there could be a big crack, and I can fall down with nothing to stop me from going all the way to the bottom. In the top right-hand corner there, called Sir Ranulph Fiennes. He's a very famous British explorer. That big snow cap across Antarctica quite a long time ago, and he repeatedly fell in the crevasses, unfortunately. You can see he's broken his vehicle there. In the bottom right-hand side, you can see actually what it looks inside. It'd be terrifying. And I mean, that scares me a lot, and I'm not really that excited about possibly falling in one of those. So I've got to do my absolute best from falling in any of those, because I won't be able to get out. That I've got to worry about is obviously the cold. Now, I hope you don't mind a couple of gory photos here, because I'm going to show you what happens to human flesh 50 degrees Celsius, okay? So get ready. It's a little bit gross. Oh, God. Goodness me. So, as you can see there, that's frostbite. Now, frostbite happens when your skin freezes. So in the top right-hand corner there, you can see a man's toes who've gotten frostbitten, where all the cells are frozen, started falling off. And the same hand side there. And then the bottom right-hand corner, that's a condition called polar thigh. Now, when you're walking into that wind, 2 months, your tops of your legs are taking all of the cold. And so the whole top layer can freeze, and it's very, very painful. So I'm going to show you here very quickly what I'm going to try and use stop that from happening. So you can see me again there. Now these are my down snow boots. Now I actually wear them in my house because they're so comfortable. But they're basically huge pillows, feet, and they're filled with feathers, and they're extremely warm. So even in -50, I could have these on my feet in my tent, and they'd be absolutely fine. And I've got the same that goes on my hands, these humongous mitts. They sort of look like oven mitts that you can get the oven with, but they're absolutely enormous, and their feathers are kind of silly, but they keep my hands nice and warm, and will stop my fingers going black and falling off like that. Now at night, obviously, is when I'm going to be really cold because I'm not moving. So what I have to do is sleep in the world's biggest sleeping bag. As you can see here, it's absolutely enormous. It's over 6.5 feet long, and it's almost 4 feet wide. And I can lie in that in minus 50, minus 60, and I'll be absolutely fine. Got to worry about is basically starvation. As we're sitting here now, and you guys are sitting in your classrooms before you or after you've had lunch, you're burning 1,000 calories just to sort of keep yourself alive day to day. And I'm skiing for 12 to 14 hours a day in Antarctica in minus 50 or 60. I burn 3 times that. So about 9,000 calories every single day. And that's no matter how much I eat. That's like eating almost 20 or 30 cheeseburgers, and you're still not going to be able to give yourself enough energy to be able to move. So what happens is I start losing weight, and basically my body, I start getting really, really skinny. It's brilliant, because right now I have to try and get really fat before I go. And you can imagine how amazing that is, because I love chocolate and ice cream and burgers. So yesterday I ate 4 cheeseburgers in one day, which was my personal record so far. I'm really going to hope I can get more than that, about 5 cheeseburgers by the time I go in a single sitting. So hopefully for the next few weeks I can continue to eat before I go down to Antarctica, so I'm nice and warm. Now the next thing you're probably wondering is, how do you learn how to survive? And I had never ever been to the Antarctica or the Arctic, so the top of the world, before I decided to do this. So I basically decided I want to do it, and I had to learn how to do it. So I went, and first of all I had to get strong enough to be able to do it. So I set out on a mission to get even stronger and faster than I was at that time, and I went up to the Arctic and spent about 2 weeks, 4 different times, so almost 2 months in total, in the Arctic, and training. You can see here is a quick few clips of how I was doing it. And I was in the military when I started training. I was based out in Asia, so there was nowhere cold, so I had to drag this tire behind me to try and simulate carrying all that weight. And so every day I'd tie it around me and try and simulate here. That's how big my sled is, and it's really quite heavy in those sorts of conditions. And one of the next things I had to learn to do, as you can see, it's very, very windy there, is to do things like putting up my tent. And I don't know who's ever put up a tent in the class today, but doing it in the wind is very, very difficult. And doing it in the wind by yourself is even more difficult. So I had to learn to get used to the conditions there. As you can see, it can be very difficult to see, completely white all around you. No matter where you look, it's just white. So you can get lost very, very easily and start walking off in the wrong direction. And you can see there, that's a video of me trying to practice putting up my tent in quite a heavy storm in the Arctic. And my hands were completely frozen when I was doing this. And you can see that I'm trying to get the pegs and the poles into the tent, completely numb, and you can't, none of the tent's doing what you want to do, and it takes a really long time, and you can risk having the tent blow away, which is not good at all, because as soon as you lose your tent, I'm afraid there's not much that you can do to stay warm at night. So next one, I was going to tell you guys very briefly about what my day-to-day life looks like down Antarctica, because it's a bit different to how we're living now. Alarm will go off in Antarctica at 6 in the morning. I'll get up at 6 in the morning, and I'll have to, first of all, my first job as soon as I get up, water for the whole day. Because as you can imagine, when it's that cold, there's nowhere you can fill up your water bottle from to get a drink. So every single time I want to drink, a bucket of snow and melt it, which takes up to 2 hours to melt enough water to be able to drink for the day. And that'll take me a couple of hours before I fold up my tent just like that in really high winds. And then I'll set off and I'll start skiing. And I will ski dragging my sled for anywhere from about 12 to 14 hours every single day. Hours non-stop, apart from a quick break to grab some snacks. I'll keep skiing until the night time, where I'll stop at about 8 p.m. at night, and then I'll have to do the exact same thing, where I'll unpack all my tent, try and put it up in the wind, another 2 hours melting all the snow I need for the next day before I can finally go to sleep for a few hours in my big sleeping bag before getting up at 6 o'clock and doing it all over again. That bag that I'm eating throughout the day and at the night is again pretty tasty because I have to eat as fat foods as I can. So it's big bits of salami and chocolate and nuts and really nice high calorie tasty foods like that. In terms of down in Antarctica, you've probably seen pictures of polar bears eating seals and things like that. Very luckily for me, polar bears only live in the Arctic at the top of the world. So in the Arctic sea where they eat seals. Down in Antarctica, I've got no predators to chase me, just giant king emperor penguins, which can be absolutely enormous, but thankfully they can't eat you. So that's a very quick run through there of everything that I'm going to be doing down there. Is there any questions from any of the classes? Jesse, I don't know if it'll go through you.
Yeah, so they absolutely do, and thank you so much for that. I'm still getting over the image of dragging LeBron James across the Antarctic. I'm sure that really would be interesting. All right, so let's go to Mrs. Editor's class first. If you guys have a question, come on up.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yep. No, you're good. Right here.
Yep.
Are you scared to go to the? Are you scared to do this, Scott?
That's a very good question, and one my mum keeps on asking me because she's very worried about what I've decided to do. And I am. I'm very scared because it is quite scary. But that's sort of one of the reasons I wanted to do it, because I wanted to see if even when I was scared, if I was still able to keep myself moving and keep myself pushing through the scary times, which I think is important sometimes to sort of face your fears and see if you can push on through.
Excellent. Great question. All right. Let's go to the Aurelia class. So Mr. Henderson, Mr. Burney, you guys want to come on up? Go for it.
If you get sick, what are you going to do?
Also a very good question. So when I go down there, I've got a huge big medical pack that basically has everything I would need in it for anything to go wrong. So say one of my fingers goes black or my toes go black, like you saw in the pictures there, I've got a load of creams and painkillers to help me with that. And then I've also got some quite serious medicines that I would only use if a doctor advised me. And luckily, I've got a satellite phone which you can use anywhere in the world. And there is a doctor on standby about a few thousand miles away in a permanent camp and I can even upload a photo and send him what's wrong with me and say, how do I treat this? My foot's gone black. It's excruciatingly painful. And he knows, he's got a list of exactly what I've got in my medical pack. And he'll go, okay, take 4 of those pills, rub that cream on it and don't move for a day. To try and help me get to the finish line. So luckily, I'm not on my own completely. I've still got someone I can call to tell me what to do.
Cool. All right. Mr. Bushnell's class, if you guys have a question, come on up.
How are you going to get home?
How am I going to get home? Well, luckily, I don't have to turn around and go back when I get to the South Pole. So when I walk all the way to the South Pole, when you get there is actually a pole. There is an actual pole at the South Pole. It's red and white like a candy cane, and it's got a big silver ball on top. All the flags that signed a treaty a long time ago to protect the Antarctic. So I get there. And there is a big scientific base. So the Scott Amundsen, who are 2 very famous polar explorers, research base. And there's some very nice American and Canadian scientists inside who will hopefully let me inside down in the warm and maybe give me a cup of tea or some coffee and chocolate on my phone. And I call the logistics. So the people who are supporting me, who will then send a propeller plane out to the South Pole up and take me back, and I begin a very long journey, almost 2 days to get back first of all to Chile, and then another 2 days to get all the way back to London.
Excellent question. Make sure you ask nicely when you show up at the base, because if they, you really do want to be let in.
Yeah, that's key. That's absolutely essential.
All right. This is Foresight's class in Anaheim. You guys want to come on up? You just have to demute your mic. It's not letting me do it, unfortunately. So there you go. Perfect.
What are you going to do if you need to go to the bathroom?
Right, okay, now I get this question a lot, and it's a very good question because it's very important. You basically have to make sure you don't face into the wind because it's very windy, and you have to dig a big hole, and unfortunately you just have to do go to the toilet in the hole. Horrible as that.
And the lesson about the wind applies anywhere in the world as well. All right.
Anywhere.
Let's go to Mr. Taylor's class. You'll just have to demute your own mic again. But if you have a question, come on up.
We do. Which question are we going to go with? Matthew, you want to ask your first one? We came in late, so we missed this. Go ahead, Matthew.
Why did you want to go to the Antarctica? Go to the
That's a question. That's a question I asked myself a lot when I was in the Arctic by myself, and there's three real reasons actually. Well, two reasons. Like I showed you at the start, the name of the expedition is Antarctic Gurkha. It's actually my military unit, so I'm still in the military now, and I serve with a group of guys called the Gurkhas, and all of my soldiers are from Nepal. The British Army still recruit these soldiers from Nepal. And I went out a couple of years ago to Nepal to see us recruiting them. And it was when, I don't know if you guys saw it in the news, there was a massive earthquake where people unfortunately died. And I was there at the time. And we went out into the hills after that to try and help all the veterans who used to serve with our unit. Homes were destroyed. Unfortunately, a lot of their families died and there was no medical support. So hopefully £25,000 for the Gurkha Welfare Trust, which is a charity that we give back to try and make sure we look after all the guys that used to serve in my unit who have then gone back to Nepal. So the first reason is I wanted to try and raise as much money as I could for them. And I've done a few things before. I ran 100 kilometers across the Himalayas to try and raise some money, a couple of ultra marathon events. But I thought I'd really try and up the stakes and raise a big amount of money by doing something even crazier. And the second reason is I really, really enjoy these sorts of challenges. Sort of your guys' age, I used to really like going outside and going camping, and I played a lot of sport, and I really liked to push myself as far as I could. But I really wanted to see where my sort of limit was, like how tired could I really get and continue to keep pushing and keep on moving. And so I thought, I'm going to do one huge test. I'm going to test myself to the absolute limit, both in a physical sense and also in my head, to see if I couldn't give up. And this, in my opinion, is the hardest journey you can make in the world, especially by yourself. So to be able to achieve it, I think I could be, hopefully, quite proud of myself if I get to the finish line.
Outstanding. Just a quick follow-up. How much money has been raised so far?
We're about halfway there, so £13,000, so just about $20,000, so £13,000 at the moment.
Outstanding. All right, let's go to Mrs. Guido and Eggert's class. You just have to demute your own mic, guys. Sorry. Take your time, no hurry. There you go.
All right. What food will you bring with you when you go on your trip?
Good. That's my most important thing. So I love to eat. So that's what I'm most worried about. So in the mornings and at night time, I eat 2 meals a day because I can't stop during the day for more than a couple of minutes. Otherwise, I'll freeze. So I have basically a bag, and it's dehydrated food. So kind of if you're in REI or an outdoor shop and you see those sort of dehydrated meals that you just have to add some water to, stir them up, and they basically look like porridge, like oatmeal, and they're really high calorie with a lot of energy. So I'll eat one of those in the morning with a big old cup of coffee. And then during the day, I'll stop about every hour and a half to 2 hours for just a couple of minutes. And I have that big bag of snacks with chocolate, with salami. And because I need to get as much energy and fat as I can, I'll even just eat frozen sticks of butter and lard and things like that, because you have to try and get as many calories as you can. It's disgusting, I promise you. and then you have to eat nuts and dried fruits and basically like beef jerky. But the key is you have to cut them up into tiny little pieces because it's all completely frozen. So what happens is you'll chuck a nice bit of Hershey's chocolate in your mouth and you'll bite into it and then you'll crack a tooth and one of your teeth will fall out and you can't go to the dentist. So you have to walk alone for the next couple of months with one of your teeth falling out. And then in the evening, I'll eat another one of those nice big dehydrated meals with added water. So just 2 big meals in the morning and at night time.
Excellent. I was wondering when we were going to get that question. All right, Scott, you good for another round of questions, all the classes?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Let's do it. All right, so Mrs. Editor's class, come on back up.
How did you teach yourself to work hard?
Ooh, how do I teach myself to work hard? Well, I think I learned to work hard back when I was in school and I was playing sport. And I was told I wasn't allowed to play sport unless I got my grades good enough to go and play sports in the evening. So my parents made me basically work really hard at some of the things I wasn't too keen to do so I could do the things I wanted to do. And then when I finally got round to being able to do what I wanted to do, then I could really put everything I wanted into because it was like a reward for me. So I think back when I wanted to be a tennis player, back when I was young, about 12 or 13 years old, and I put everything I could in to try and be a tennis player, that's when I really, really learned sort of how to work hard, both when I was at school and in sports as well. But thank you. That's a great question.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Let's head back to Aurelia. You guys have another question? Come on up.
Are you going to be climbing on this trip? If you are, what tools are you bringing?
Was that climbing?
Climbing, yeah.
Climbing. Okay, so basically because Antarctica is basically a massive flat expanse and there are a few dotted mountains around. And to make it easy for me, I've taken a route that basically goes around the mountains like that. But at the start, I have to go up about 2,000 feet in just a couple of days. In total, I have to go up about 10,000 feet, which is over 10 Eiffel Towers. So if you picture 10 Eiffel Towers all piled up on each other, I have to go all the way up to the top like that. Now at the start, to get up that first 2,000 feet with that big sled behind me, if you can imagine on skis, they're very slippery. So if you're going uphill, you'll just keep falling backwards. So to be able to climb, what I've got is essentially, they're like a piece of carpet that you screw in to the bottom side of the underside of your ski, which lets you grip and pull your way up the hill. So, and I've also got some very, very sharp ski poles that I can stick in and help pull me up that steep bit at the start of the journey.
Excellent. All right, back to Mr. Bushnell's class. You guys have another question.
Does your family support you?
My family support me. Well, when I told my mum what it was I wanted to do, and I can relate when you've got in trouble. I was in big trouble for quite a long time. She wasn't very happy with me. But thankfully, when they saw sort of how hard I was having to work to put it together, she managed to forgive me, and now they're very supportive of my trip. But at first, they were a bit worried about me and a bit scared that I might get hurt. So my mum wasn't very pleased with me for quite a long time.
Before we continue, Scott, I've got to say, like, it's very seldom that all the classes are like gathered around the screen, like ready to ask you questions. I think we could probably do this all day, but we'll keep going for now and see how many we get in. All right, Mrs. Forsythe's class, come on back up, guys.
What kind of attire are you gonna wear besides the furry boots and the furry mittens?
Okay, yeah. So what I have is, believe it or not, even though it's about -50, because I'm having to work so hard to pull my sled, I actually get really, really hot. If you sweat, it'll freeze instantly, and I'll be in a bit of trouble. So I have to wear lots and lots of different layers. And I have one absolutely massive big down jacket. It's almost like my sleeping bag here, but a coat, and it's got a fur hood around it, which stops the wind cutting into my face and making my face sort of go black like those fingers you saw. So I've got like one very thin base layer, and then sort of a fleece jacket, and they're not that dissimilar, not that different from a lot of the coats you'll see, but it's just that I have to wear quite a few different layers. Really is my boots that I wear. My boots, alongside those furry ones I've then got a big plastic outer layer, insulated layer, so a warm layer inside that. So my feet are absolutely enormous, like big space boots, because the blood takes so long to get to our fingers and our toes. That's where they're most at risk, like you saw in the disgusting pictures, of getting frostbite.
Excellent. All right, Mr. Taylor's class, come on up. Just demute your own mic and ask away.
Hi.
All right, Mallie, go ahead.
So, how do you keep your personal hygiene up to par when you're in Antarctica?
How do I keep my personal...
Your hygiene. How are you going to keep clean?
Oh, okay. Personal hygiene. Now, rather disgustingly, I don't get to change my pants for the entire 2 months that I'm down there. So I only wear one pair of underpants in a row. It's pretty gross. And because I obviously can't I can't wash that often. Every now and again, I'll treat myself to what's called a snow bath. So even when it's like -40 outside my tent, and basically roll around in the snow, washing under my arms to try and get rid of the smell, before being very, very cold and running back in my tent, getting in my sleeping bag. But unfortunately, I will basically just be very, very smelly by the time I reach the South Pole.
So you'll have to ask really nicely to be let into the Antarctic base then. All right.
Yeah, exactly. They probably won't be that happy about me coming in with that smell.
All right, let's go back to Mrs. Guido and Eggert's class. Go right ahead, guys. And just demute your own mic. Sorry, forgot to mention.
What are you gonna do when your phone dies?
When my phone dies. So Antarctica in the summer, the sun never sets. Okay, so in their winter time, the sun is down all the time, so it's dark 24 hours a day. In the summer, it's obviously the opposite. So 24 hours a day, for almost 5 months, the sun never goes down. So what I do is I carry a very light fold-up solar panel, and I'll roll out that solar panel, and I can plug in my phone and my iPod and my iPhone as well, not just my sat phone, my iPhone, always power them. So I can watch movies in the night in the tent, which is a real treat. So I've got to try and choose my favorite movies that I'm not going to get sick of, and my favorite music, which I'm going to have to listen to for 2 months in a row, because I can always charge it from the sun.
Handy. Scott, do you have time for another round of questions? I mean, there's so many coming your way. Are you good?
I can do it. Another round. Another round's fine.
Another round, last round. And what movies? What have you picked so far?
I'm afraid I haven't got round yet to making a decision, because I think if I rush into that, I'll be stuck with movies I don't want to watch for about 2 months. So I need to sit down and really take my time and decide what movies I want to watch.
All right. Mrs. Editor's class, if you guys have a third question, come on up.
What is your favorite place you have visited?
My favorite place that I visited, actually, and this is 100% true, my favorite place in the world is actually in America, in a place called Boise in Idaho. Absolutely love Boise, Idaho. If I could go back and live there again, I would. I absolutely love, if I'm talking away from America and away from the UK, it's probably in Borneo, where I lived for the last 2 years in the rainforest there. It's a beautiful place. It's very different from Antarctica. It's about 40 degrees over zero rather than 40 degrees under. Wildlife like orangutans and snakes and spiders and all sorts like that. So I'm a big fan of Borneo.
What makes Boise, Idaho so great? Like, no offense to Boise, Idaho, I'm just curious.
Boise, Idaho is a beautiful place where the outdoor life there is wonderful. You can go whitewater rafting, you can go camping, you can go fishing. It's a best kept secret in America.
Okay, you should
check it out.
Them.
Yeah, you got to check it out. It's amazing.
All right, back to really in Ontario, guys. If you have another question, come on up.
Let's go. What will you do if you go the wrong way? Will we follow you on your trip?
If I go the wrong way, so to try and not go the wrong way, what I've got is I've got 2 GPS units that can always show me my exact location. But if they go massively wrong, I've then got my compass to show me the right way. And luckily, every single day I have to call a base who I have a tracker on me, and they're constantly watching where I'm going. So if I call them every night and they'll look at where I am, and if I've suddenly gone massively off course, they're there to double check and say you've gone into a dangerous area or you've gone into the wrong direction. They'll get me back heading in the right way.
All right, Mr. Bushnell's class. Come on up, guys.
How much training do you need?
How much? So I have been training and planning for this trip for 2 years now. So 2 years I've been getting ready for it. As you saw there, running along the beach with the tire on my back and going up to Norway and the Arctic Circle for a few trips. So 2 years in total it's taken me to get ready.
Excellent. All right, back to Anaheim.
What will you do if you run out of medical supplies?
If I run out of medical supplies, I've got that sat phone where I can call back the people who are going to eventually pick me up. So if I got really, really sick and I'd used up all my medicine and it looked like I was in a bit of trouble and I was going really, really downhill, then what I would do is I would call them up and they'd look at my tracker and I'd say, you've got to come and either drop off more medical supplies now or you've got to pick me up because I haven't got enough and to get me to the finish.
Would they be able to do that anywhere along your route, or?
They can do it anywhere along the route, but it unfortunately means that the world record that I'm going to, I wouldn't be able to break anymore because unsupported means that I can't actually get resupplies along the way. So although I might reach the South Pole, I wouldn't be eligible for the record of being the youngest person to reach it unsupported.
Well, I'm sure you will get it. Before we go to the last question where the class gets to say it, a written in one was really good. How do classes follow you while you're traveling?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, if you want to give me any suggestions for movies that you think I should watch, you can definitely get in touch with me. My website is www.antarcticgurkha.com. My Instagram, if any of you guys are on Instagram, _Gurkha, you can see it there. You can follow me on all the sort of social sites like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram using that. So you can send me some messages, send me some suggestions for movies, and I'll be posting a picture every day when I'm down in Antarctica of how I'm getting along, so you can follow the entire journey.
Outstanding. All right, and I can pass that information in an email to all the classes too. I'll do that right after the hangout's done. All right, last but not least, let's go to Mr. Taylor's class. If you guys have a last question, just demute your mic and come on up.
We do have a question. We're just arguing over which one. Give me 1 sec.
Okay. It's a good problem to have, Scott, when they have to, it's like the final question. What do we do?
Yeah. No problem. No problem.
No.
All right. We're going to go with this one. When you get back, after 2 months of being in the Antarctic, what's the first thing you plan to do when you come back to civilization?
The first thing I'm going to do, or the first thing I'm going to eat?
Both.
Whatever you want. You
Both.
come back to
Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I think I'm probably going to get into my bed and sleep for up to a week, maybe. I might sleep for an entire week if I can. And what am I going to eat? Well, I'm from England, so I think the only thing I could possibly eat would be fish and chips. I think it's only right that I get back on big cod and chips.
Right. That was a great hangout. Okay, so what we do at the end of every hangout, Scott, is I'm going to demute every class's microphone. So Mrs. Editor's class, all you got, singing a big band. Thank you, Scott. So as I said, I'm going to send information about the hangout Scott in an email after we're done. Joining us today, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much. Lovely chatting to you.
All right.